Hi everyone, this is Sarah Davis. I will be your instructor for this term for your technical math course entitled AGE 215. This is an online course, obviously, so there's some things that are a little bit different about this course than a course that you might have taken on the ground. I've got up here right now your syllabus so that we can kind of go through and look at that. First thing that I wanted to point out is to make sure that you get your textbook ordered as soon as possible. However, if you don't have it ordered right away, that doesn't mean you can't go ahead and get started in the course. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a moment. So this particular course is considered a technical math course. So it goes over a lot of different topics. So at the very beginning, during week one, we're going to focus on some of the basics, working with whole numbers, fractions, decimals, things like that. And then as we move into week two, we're going to look at the metric system and measurement. And then week three, we're going to start looking at actually linear equations. So that's where we start getting into more of what you might consider algebra. So at any point, if you get stuck or you need help, please make sure that you reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. I'm more than happy to help you with that. Now, I want to point out too that you're going to see some things on the syllabus as far as your activities or your class participation that are the same as what's in the actual classroom, but because this is an online class as well as a ground class, I want to point out to you the difference. So make sure that you are using what's in the actual classroom, okay? It's going to be the same things, but what you do with them as far as what you're turning in and things like that is a little bit different. So let's just hop into the class real quick and take a look at that. So first of all, that's what your textbook's going to look like, okay? It's Essentials of College Mathematics. But once we're actually in the course, and let me just kind of move this around for you so you can see. Mine's going to look a little bit different than yours because I'm the instructor, so I have a different view. But once you're in the course itself and you're in your different modules, every week you're going to have a specific module. Now, the first couple of weeks you're going to have the textbook materials in there. So that's why I said you can go ahead and get started without having the textbook readily available. You can click there and it's going to actually take you to chapters in the book. So you can go ahead and get started even without the actual physical textbook because we do have that material there for you ready to go. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to point out. The second thing is you're going to have the objectives, which kind of go over, same thing as on the syllabus, what we're covering, etc. You're going to have a from the instructor section, which is where the link to this particular video is going to be found for week one. And then every other week, there's also going to be another video. So there'll be a video with me talking, going over some things, maybe answering questions, things like that. So you'll want to make sure you go to that every week as well. And then you're going to have your weekly discussion. So this is where you're going to go every week by Wednesday. You're going to click here. You're going to read the discussion prompt. And in this case, this week's prompt says, this week's all about fractions. Here is a YouTube video. Read it, watch it, and then read and answer these questions. So that's what you're going to do by Wednesday, is to read and answer those questions. By Sunday, then you're going to actually make 2 responses to others about their responses. So you've got to make sure you post 3 times every week in order to be considered complete when it comes to your discussion posts. And you'll want to make sure that your discussion post responses as well as your initial response are more than just I agree or that sounds good or something like that. Your initial post should be at least 200 words. And your responses need to be at least 50 words. So make sure that you've got some substance to your discussions. And then the other thing I wanted to point out here is your weekly assignment. Now, when you go in here on your weekly assignment, it's going to tell you to do a couple different things. The first thing it's going to do is to list all of the things that you need to be doing on your own. So these are on that syllabus, but you're not turning these in. These are things that you are doing in a notebook on your own, however you want to do them, so that you can practice and see what you understand, what you don't understand. These are all things that you're going to do before you turn in your actual grade. And for this particular week, the stuff that you're turning in to be graded is down here. So you're just turning in the practice tests on these two sets of pages for a grade. None of this gets turned in for a grade at the top, just these two items at the bottom. So that's why you're doing all of these. These are sections, in the book that will prepare you for this practice test. So as you're going through this material at the top, if you have problems, questions, whatever, that's the time to reach out to me to get help so that you can, make sure that you know what you're doing before you turn in the assignment. And then once you turn your assignment in, then you can go ahead and take your test for the week. So make sure that you are, completing that practice stuff on your own. Again, you're not turning that in. You're only turning in the things at the bottom of the list each week. And then finally, every week you will have a quiz. And if you take a look, let me just scroll down here to week 1 quiz. You'll click on that and you'll go straight to that quiz, and you'll be answering those particular problems, and taking the quiz. So usually they are multiple choice. Occasionally there'll be you can see right here, here's an example of the multiple choice. Occasionally there'll be a free form answer where you have to type it in. If there is, just know that that is not something that's graded by the computer. I have to manually grade that. So don't panic if you don't see a grade. I will be going in later to do those grades. So again, that's just a little FYI. And finally, I wanted to point out this section up here. This is where the announcements are. Every week you're going to have announcements that kind of go over what to expect and things like that. Again, my view is a little bit different than yours because I'm the instructor, obviously. But I wanted to point out some information in here about the announcement about the math assignments. I did put a note in here that you should show your work for all your problems. Now, what that means is if you want to handwrite your assignments and either scan or take a picture and upload that into Canvas so that I can grade it, that is perfectly fine. You don't have to type it all out in Word unless you want to. Some sections are going to be easier. You can just type them out and it won't be a big deal. But as we get into some more difficult things with exponents and things like that, it might not be easy to write that stuff out in Word. It might be just easier to handwrite it, and that's perfectly fine. So show me your work. Show me what you did in your head, in the calculator, whatever, so that I know what you did, so that I can help give you feedback. Always use your calculator. Always write down units as you do your problem and for your final answer. A lot of times that's going to be really important to the final answer. If it doesn't give you directions, you can round to the nearest hundredth. But most of the time you're going to be, given directions, round to the nearest whatever. But if there is no directions and you're not sure what to do, just go ahead and round to the nearest hundredth. And then finally, the last thing I want to point out is the announcement that actually has my contact information. This is me. So there's me, a picture of me, and this is all of my contact information. I am adjunct, which means I have another job and I do this part-time, but that doesn't mean you can't get me whenever you need me. I actually work from home for my other job, so you can pretty much reach me anytime. This is my cell phone number, so you can call or text that anytime. You can reach me through my Vatterott email. Technically, my office hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, but if you call or text me, I answer anytime. So I ask you don't call at like 3 in the morning. I won't answer probably then, but you can leave me a message and I'll call you back. But yeah, I'm always available. We can definitely schedule something for whatever works with your schedule. If you need help, I'm perfectly fine with doing online tutoring. So just let me know if there's any questions or problems that you have over the next 10 weeks. That's what I'm here for. So I hope you have a great course. If you need anything at all, please let me know, and have a great week.